Hello internet, and today I'm going to do a book haul for you. So for the month of March I bought a ton of books. Like, I spent a ridiculous amount of money on books. I went to bookstores, I ordered things online. There was so much. So this is actually going to be split into two parts, but for now we're just gonna go over the 20 odd or so books that I have here and which ones got added to my collection. I'm really happy with the books that I got, but at the same time I'm just like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? I still have a ton of books on my shelves that I haven't read, and while I'm not angry at myself for buying books even though I have tons I haven't read, it's just adding on the pressure because, like, I'm just like, you gotta read these books, you have to read these books, you need to read these books, and then I have more books to add to that list. So, good thing that I've been reading a lot these past couple of months, or we would never ever get this TBR anywhere close to manageable. Let's go through these books. They're in no particular order. I'm just gonna pull them out of the stacks that I set up. The first book that I have here is Feral Youth by Sean David Hutcherson. This is a novel with 10 points of view from Sean David Hutcherson and 9 points of view from 9 other powerhouse authors. So, like, it has the list of all the authors that also collabed with him. I really love Sean David Hutcherson. He wrote We Are the Ants, which is a book that I really needed and I really love. Like, I cannot express to you how much that book means to me. But this one, I believe, is about, like, boys going camping or something. It's about, like, the survival of these guys who are going camping, and they have to figure out how to survive whatever is going on. I don't know much more than that. I've just been slowly collecting all of this author's books because I really love We Are the Ants. So even if I don't love any of his other books even half as much, I want to support him for writing a book that means a lot to me, if, like, that makes any sense. The next book is one that I got at a used bookstore. It is something that I've had on my list, and that is Auxiliary Justice by Ann Lackey. This isn't one that I can remember specifically what it's about. It's a sci-fi book. I think it has a female lead. I don't know much else about that, but it's been something that has been on my list that I've known that I want, even though I can't remember exactly what it was that caught my eye. So this was at a bookstore for like $5, and I was like, come here now, I'm gonna buy you. So what is this about? Yeah, as far as I can tell, it's a female driving a spaceship in space. Like, I don't need much more than that to convince me to buy this book. Plus, it is one of my favorite styles of books, which is an Orbit book. Orbit has this habit of making paperbacks that have, like, this perfect spine, in my opinion. And as you've probably seen, I really love this this company and their spines. Their spines are just, there's something about the spines of these books that just really attract me. I don't know what it is. I'm weird, I know, but I want all of the books because they look so beautiful. So the next book that I got also came from a bookstore, and that is Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. This is an author that I have newly come to love, and I found this book at a bookstore. This is the Holder edition, which is based in UK. I never thought I would get my hands on this edition, even though I had seen little peeks of it, because Holder, for me at least, seems to be something you kind of have to search for to find if you want books in their edition. This one, it has been pretty beaten up. There is like a slash through it. Only on this, the rest of the book is in really good condition, but it was $4. It's an author I love. It's the edition that I want, and I kind of think that this rip down the side and it being taped gives it a lot of character. So I'm actually pretty happy. This book is a sci-fi book. It is like about a group of people and like aliens that come or something. Like, there's aliens that arrive and it's following this group of people. I've heard a lot of people like this book. I've already read several of this author's other books. I plan to read more of her books once I buy them. So I have no problem with trusting that this will probably be a book that really entertains me. So next is Raven Stratagem by Yoon Ha Lee. This is the second book in a series, the first book being Nine Fox Gambit. This was something that I actually bought last month but didn't come in until after I had already filmed that book haul, so I'm showing it here. I got this because I'm planning to read Nine Fox Gambit and this book for the BookTube SFF Awards. It was something I was already previously interested in, and because it was on the short list, I figured why not just buy them and try to see if you can read them for the time the awards come around. So I bought it. I'm gonna eventually read it, of course. This is about a woman, and she ends up having to take another consciousness into her mind, and it's of this crazy general dude, and the two of them have to work together to defeat something. That's all I really know about the series, and I have no idea what the second book is about, other than that very vague premise I just gave you. The next two books I have are actually the same book, and it is another Sean David Hutcherson book. So this is The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza. This was the Page Habit book of February. It was what I suspected it was. It was curated by Books and Lala, which I'm sure a lot of you already know. So this has like the Page Habit like little things on the side. Sticky notes, that's the word. It has a sticky note signed by the author. It has a letter from the author in here that I put in. I really want to read this, and I was unsure about whether or not this would be the book that came in the box. I just got really nervous, okay, because this was the book I wanted. And then I was like, what if it's not this book? And then my box came in late, so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And I got really nervous. So like a couple days before this arrived in the mail, I bought a copy for myself. So this is the copy I bought from Amazon, and this is a copy with all the extra stuff. I'm not mad about it. I'm going to read the blank copy first so that I can read it without the notes and just take it in by myself, and then I'll probably go back and like reread it with the notes or read the notes later. So I'm really happy with my Page Habit, don't get me wrong, but I'm also kind of glad that I got another copy. And did I mention that I love this author, so I'm not unhappy to support him with my dollars. So I now own 2 copies of the same book. I'm not that sort of person, but apparently in this case, I am. There are a couple authors that you'll see, specifically in this book haul, that I have bought. I have more than 1 copy of their book, while traditionally I usually don't do that. There are a few authors I'm willing to spend that extra coin for, okay? So next I have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I read this book last month, but I ended up buying it the first day of March just so that I could have a physical copy, even though I read it on audio. There's not really much more I can say about it than that. I just wanted a physical copy, so I now have a physical copy. The next 2 books are books that I've also already read on audio, and that is The Fifth Season by M.K. Jemisin, and then the sequel to that, The Obelisk Gate. This is a series I've been collecting. I read these 2 on audiobook. The audiobook was great, but I had to buy the 3rd book because I couldn't get that one on audiobook, so I was like, why not just purchase it? And then I was just like, why don't you just purchase the whole trilogy? So then I just went ahead and purchased the whole trilogy. Again, this comes from Orbit, so it has those beautiful square spines, and she put numbers on her book. Amazing, I know. I'm very in love with numbers on the spine that tell me what order a book goes in, because I need all the help I can get since I cannot read synopsises very well. This is about a woman named Asun whose husband murdered her kid and stole her other kid, and she lives in this like fantasy world where she is a special type of human called Origine, which means like she has special powers, except in this world Origines are not the most loved people, so you're learning about the history of the world, about what Asun has gone through, and everything entailing the life of living on a broken earth. The next book I have here is Witchwood by Tahereh Mafi. This is the sequel to Furthermore. It follows another character in this, a girl who washes the bodies of the dead. Her name is Lali. This also heavily deals with the characters in Furthermore, so you probably need to read Furthermore to fully get the characteristics, but it's not necessary. Like, I started this and I'm like, okay, those characters play a large role, but like, this is the sequel / second book to Furthermore. This also has a pretty interesting cover that I don't know if you can see on camera, but it has like this little sheen across of it that kind of makes it kind of sparkly. There's a lot of snow, so the effect of this book kind of gives it this snowy iridescent feel, which is actually really pretty. And I'm a person who loves matte covers, so I'm actually surprised I like this iridescent sheen. The only downside to this copy of the book is when it came in the mail, I don't know if you can tell, but it got like dented and bented up on the book sleeve, and I'm just like, come on guys, like, take care of my books for me. The next two books I have are a part of a series that I've already done a review for the first book, and that is Temeraire by Naomi Novik. This is also known as His Majesty's Dragon. I believe this is the UK edition, which is why the title of the first name is different and why these covers are not the normal covers that you see, which are like red and stuff, but these are a white cover. So this is the first book, Temeraire, and then this is the second book, Throne of Jade. The title stays the same on this one, even though it's different on the first. So this series takes place during the Napoleonic Wars, and it's basically the same, except Avian forces are run with the use of dragons, so it follows a naval officer and his dragon Temeraire as they get inducted into military life using the Avian forces and using dragons as a means to like fight and stuff. So I don't think I explained it very well right now, but like, go check out His Majesty's Dragon and my video on that and you'll get a bigger picture. But I was pretty happy to see these editions because I really like them. They're really pretty, and yeah, so I now own these. Honestly, I don't know why I bought this book. I don't know what it's about. I've never heard of it before, but it has pirates in it, so I was like, I haven't read a lot of good pirate books and I like pirates, so I bought it. So this is Magic of Blood and Sea by Cassandra Clark. I think this has two books in one. It is about a girl who like gets a curse put on her and something to do with her being a pirate and breaking these curses and whatever. I don't know. It just said curses and pirates, and I was like, I could deal with a little bit of both, so I bought the book. Next, we have Poet X by Elizabeth Esvego. I think I said that right. This is not something I would usually buy because it is a poetry book. It follows a character and the whole story of this character is told through the use of poetry. But I heard this author do slam poetry of what I think is contained in this book, and I really liked how it sounds. And I like slam poetry when it's spoken out loud, so I kind of wish that I had an audiobook to this as well that I could follow along with. But I figured, why not support it? Why not give it a shot, even though I don't traditionally like poetry, because I feel like I have to personally put too much effort into it to understand it. And I don't got time to be putting that much effort into it. But I decided to buy it because Target had an exclusive edition that had extra content, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna give this book a shot, might as well get the book with the extra stuff in it. So I bought the book with the extra stuff in it because I could. So the next book that I have is And I Darken by Kiersten White. All I know about this book is that it's kind of a Vlad the Impaler retelling, except Vlad in this book is a female. I don't know much else other than that, but I think the cover is stunning. It is something that's been on my radar, and it was there for a pretty cheap price at the bookstore, so I was like, you're gonna buy it, you know you will. And guess what? I bought it because I knew I would. So the next book that I have here is pretty an interesting buy. I rebought this book. It's The Diviners by Libba Bray. I rebought it because I've heard so many good things about it, so I'm pretty confident that I at least won't hate this book. The edition that I had before this was like half the size. As you can see, this is a pretty thick book, but for whatever reason, the edition that I originally bought looks like it is one of those 300-page size hardcovers, and I'm assuming it has Bible thin pages because this is like over 500 pages worth of book. So I was like, if I'm reading a big book, I'm gonna own a big book. What's the point of reading a big book if it doesn't look like a big book? So I rebought it so it could look like a big book. Plus, on this edition of it, it also has this beautiful hardcover. I know that The Diviners is one of the series that suffer from cover changes forever and ever. Because of that, I think I will only ever own this first book, even if I do end up liking the series, because I like this cover, and I don't know why they keep changing it up on me, but I don't care. Now I have the Diviners of my dreams, so I don't need to be rebuying this. So, yeah. I don't really know what this is about, but I rebought it so that I could have a nicer edition of it, even though I haven't read it and have no idea what this is about. But everyone says it's good, so I'm gonna trust you guys. I'm gonna trust you guys. So the next book that I have is the star of the month in everyone's eyes, especially Twitter. Book Twitter has been raving about this book, and it is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Amietti. This is a great book. So this follows a girl named Zeely, and her magic and her people's magic has been stolen and locked away. So she has to go on an adventure because they found out that there is one last chance that she has to get magic put back into the realm and hopefully get her people out of a state of oppression that they have been under for the past 10 years or so. This is a very well written book. I'll give all my opinions on it later, but it is a book I bought. It is a book I read. I actually read this on audiobook because my library bought the audiobook the day this book was released, and I was like, what? And I was actually like 6th in line, and I was like, what? So I waited. The audiobook is pretty great. I'm going to show you the naked cover just so that you guys can see that. So that's what this naked cover looks like. The Barnes & Noble exclusive edition is red instead of black. But there you go. Now you've seen it. Now you know what beauty this book looks like. So again, I'll tell you more of my thoughts on this later. But it is a beautiful book, and it is very entertaining. So the next book I bought is Randoms by David Less. I bought it for the same reason as this title. It was just a random purchase. This is a middle school grade book, and is as well like a nerdy, geeky kid who just like really likes sci-fi shows and TV and entertainment, and he ends up getting picked to go to like an off-planet school to kind of test out the waters to see if humans will be able to integrate into the rest of the galactical society or something. So he's going to have to use a lot of his sci-fi knowledge to help him get through this like new lease in life. I don't know. I just heard that it was like this stupid geeky nerd kid, and he was going to use his nerd knowledge to like complete an adventure, and I'm just like, that would be me, because I know a bunch of useless knowledge, so I need an adventure that requires that useless knowledge for me to be a successful heroine. So I picked up this book because I was like, I might empathize with you, kid. So yeah. Next book that I have here is Trials of Apollo, The Hidden Oracle. This is book 1 in the Apollo series. This is by Rick Riordan. I don't know what this book is about other than it follows right after the Lost Heroes arc. It follows Apollo, and he's been turned human. It's very convoluted. I have no idea why. Like, I know why it happened because spoilers, and because even though I didn't read that series, I know sort of the reasonings, but I bought this because I eventually want to read the whole line of Rick Riordan books that have to deal with the Greek gods because I only ever got through the Percy Jackson series and never actually completed the series that followed that. And this was $5, and I was like, well, I was already planning to read you eventually in the future. Why not just buy the copy while it's just a couple dollars? So yeah, this is a book that I'm actually not planning to read in like the next year maybe, but I now own it, so I'm already ahead of schedule. The next book that I bought is the 3 series. This is an Eric Rux novel. This is the 4th one in the series. This whole series is by Kazza Kingsley. This is a series that I read as a kid. I never finished it. I owned the first 3 and I read the first 3, and like this was once again cheap, so I was like, might as well buy it because I'm soon going to be reunited with all my childhood books. So I figured I might as well buy it so that I can add it to my collection, and then maybe eventually I'll reread the whole series and complete it sometime in the future. So that's why I bought this book. I don't really plan to read it right now, but I might, so I bought it. Next book that I have here is a book that I have a ton of copies of, and that's Octavia E. Butler's Pattern Master. So I mentioned in the book haul where I brought back a lot of my childhood books that when it comes to Octavia E. Butler, these are my favorite covers of hers. I think they're really like old and classic, and I used to have this whole series, this specific series that this book belongs to in the same edition. So this was at the bookstore and I was like, oh my gosh, they have this edition, because this is so old. This is like an old edition. Like this is old. This is so old. So I was like, we're gonna buy this now because I eventually want to own the other 3 that go to this specific series in the same edition. So I bought it because I'm getting ahead of schedule. So yeah. This is like something to do with people with like mind magic. Look it up. Like, it's not even the first book, so I'm not even going to bother explaining what this is about. So the next book that I have here is The Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. I read this on audiobook. I actually read the whole series on audiobook. I'm not even a fan of this series, to be honest. Like, I like some points of it, but it's more I'm owning this series because they're really pretty more than because I really love this series. Like, the series is a solid 3 in my opinion and could use a lot of improvement. So I bought this. This is the paperback edition, which was the edition I wanted to own. So if you haven't seen the paperback edition, it looks like the regular hardback edition, except it has a black spine instead. So it has white spine for the first book, red spine for the second book, and black spine for this last book. I really love how these books look, even though I wasn't that big of a fan of like some of the contents. I'm not mad. And apparently this has special extra content included, so maybe I'll eventually get around to reading that just so that I can know what that's about. So the next book I have here is Violent Ends. This is also by Sean David Hutcherson, along with several other authors working with him. So like, here's the name of the other authors who worked alongside him. This book in particular is about like a kid who opens fire in his school, and it's telling the story of this kid or of the kids affected or something along those lines. It has something to do with a school shooting, but isn't focused on the shooting itself, but more about the kids involved in the shooting, if that makes sense. I think that's what this book is about. Either way, it was Sean David Hutcherson, so I was gonna buy it. So the last book that I'm going to haul in this particular video is Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. I have read this. I have reviewed this book. You can go and look at my review on it. It is about vampires. It's not hard to tell with this specific cover. This cover is not as subtle as the beat up version that I own, but this is one of my favorite books by her. So when I saw it at the bookstore for a couple dollars, I was like, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna buy that. And there was another voice in my head like, but you already own it. You already know what the story is. Do you really need another copy? And I was like, yeah, I do. So I bought another copy. I will probably never read from this copy. Let me be entirely honest. I love the copy that I owned. that I beat up that looks pretty abused. Like, I love that copy, but I figured why not own two? Book collection makes so much sense. So, these were all the books that I bought in the month of March that I'm going to show you in this video. You will eventually get my graphic novel Funko Pop edition of my March book haul once the rest of my books come in from the mail. Hopefully not damaged at Amazon. Please don't let it be that. But that will be sometime next week or the week after. So I'm happy that I got to show you the books that I do have, and now it's going to be a struggle to figure out how to put them back on my shelves where they once were, because this was actually a pretty big stack. It makes rearranging my bookshelves a little interesting every time I buy a new book. So if you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue seeing more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, Internet.